Hi, Game Master Brian, and welcome to Step 5. Now, the last 4 steps have been kind of big subjects, and they've sort of been kind of different subjects, and so some of you might be wondering exactly, where is this hay cart going? Well, I've got good news. The moment you've been waiting for has arrived, and I just checked, and it turns out that this moment, the one that you and I are having right now, turns out to be an official, auspicious moment of beginning. It's true, I checked on it. So I'm very excited. I didn't expect it, but I'm certainly very excited. And let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at Step 5. Now, yesterday, or in last step, Step 4, we were finishing up our work on the T-graph, and so let's go back and take a look at that again. So here we are. We've got plot on one side, theme on the other, and we spent the end of our last step talking about physics versus metaphysics, and we defined metaphysics in this way. Metaphysics is the study of the non-physical world. Metaphysics is speculation because there is no physical evidence to support or refute metaphysical statements or conclusions. Any statement that cannot be physically measured is considered by the game to be metaphysical. Okay, what we're going to do right now is we're going to add one more sentence to our definition of metaphysics, and here it is. So we've had what we already just read, and then we're going to add to it, Lingua Galaxiae sets metaphysics outside of the game without prejudice. It does not allow the use of metaphysical ideas as the basis of any statement or conclusion. Now, I notice I said that without prejudice. That means we're taking everything that falls under the column of theme that we're looking at here, and we're saying we're going to take these ideas and we're going to set them outside of the game, not because they're bad, not because we don't like them, not because they somehow offend us, but we're simply going to do that because this is a game and we can create whatever parameters we want. And the parameter that we're creating right now is we're taking metaphysics and we're putting it outside of the game. Okay, now, some of you might be saying to yourself, there's something about this, I don't know what it is, but there's something about this that's off, and I'm starting to smell a rat. If you have any kind of thoughts like that, good for you, because you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. There's a huge problem with what we've said so far, especially with talking about putting metaphysics outside of the game, and here's that problem. If, as we say in Step 1, that change is constant, then does that not also apply to everything in the physical world that we're talking about under the plot column? And if everything under the plot column is, in fact, in a state of change, never-ending change, how are we supposed to measure that? Let's go back to that idea that we used from geometry and the notion of a line. A line starts here and it goes that way for infinity. How do you measure the length of a geometric line if it goes for infinity? The second you measure it, it's already gone. It's gone beyond the point that you measured. What the heck are we going to do here? Okay, here's the answer. Change, which we all accept, the game requires us to accept, is constant. If we add process to that, we end up getting something we're going to call here in the game truth in the moment. And look how that works. We're saying we're able to determine a certain degree of truth in the moment, in the right here and now, but we're not going to say that that same truth is going to apply in the future because we don't know. The situation may change in the future. And we're not going to talk about this truth applying in the past because the past is not the moment, it's back there, and nobody can really be exactly sure what all the elements of the past are because we're not there to analyze it. It's already happened. So all we have left is the here and now, what's in front of us right now. And we manage change by marrying it to a process. And that's in fact what we're going to be studying most of the time during this game is the process of understanding. Now, we're talking about in the moment. Well, what exactly do we say when we mean a moment? There's all different kinds of moments, right? I mean, there's a magic moment, an aha moment, a blonde moment, a come to Jesus moment, a eureka moment, a Hallmark moment, a Hollywood moment, a Kodak moment, and a senior moment. Any moment now, spur of the moment, inappropriate moment, in just a moment, at a moment's notice, from one moment to the next, in the heat of the moment, live for the moment of truth, not a moment too soon, never a dull moment, not a moment to spare, seize the moment of truth, having your moment in the sun, and one moment, please. Well, a lot of different kinds of moments there. So when we use the word moment, what are we really talking about? Well, there's an actual history of the concept of moment, and it comes to us, brought to us by the sundial. And the reason for that is when the sundial was created, and the oldest version of a sundial that we actually physically have dates back to about 1500 years BCE in Egypt. And here's how it worked. A day consists of the time between sunrise and sunset. And so what they did is they took that amount of time and they split it up 12 ways. And each of those 12 segments was considered a solar hour. And then they took a solar hour and they divided it up again 40 times, so that each solar hour had 40 moments. And that worked out really well until the 13th century. And in the 13th century, we figured out mechanical clocks. And we threw out the solar hour and brought in something called the base 60 system. So you can figure that out pretty quickly, right? There's 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, yada, yada, yada. And that became our definition of time. Now, interestingly enough, the first popular form of portable watch was the wrist cathedral watch, and that was very, very popular. There was a time period where there was some use of the wrist cuckoo clock, but unfortunately, especially for the nearsighted, you went to look to see the time, and the little bird would come out and hit you in the eye. So the wrist cuckoo clock never really gained much in popularity. All right, now, after the 13th century, then of course we have even more modern understandings of a moment, and of course everyone now knows about the real value continuous function of a real variable about a value c, displayed this way. And of course we all understand that concept came from the phrase, "Excuse me, I have to go see a man about a dog." Don't you find little tidbits of history so fascinating? Now, if you might be thinking about all this and saying, something still about this doesn't seem right. Because after all, what are we asking of players to do here? First of all, we're saying that you have to just focus on the physical world. And then we say, you've got to just focus on the moment, turning away from the past and turning away from the future. So our area of view seems like it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, here's the deal. Remember when we went back and we looked at self-knowledge? And we determined that self-knowledge was an infinite task. It never ends. The second you start it, you're going to be involved with it all the way to the day that you breathe your last breath. It never stops. And it turns out the analysis of the moment is infinitely complex, just like analyzing the self. There is no bottom to it. There is no point in time where the moment runs out of new information to investigate. So that hole that seems like it's getting narrower and narrower and narrower, on the other side of that hole is in fact an infinite world. And most people go through life never realizing any of this. Okay, so let's define the moment, and here it is. The act of focusing on the infinitely complex here and now, and away from metaphysics, the past, and the future. Okay, time for our prompt. Here's the prompt of the day. Choose one of the following distractions: metaphysics, the past, or the future, and tell about a time when you remember this distraction interfering with your life. So here are some examples. Have you ever believed that something was true only to find out it was just imaginary. Now, for us here in the United States, maybe the best example of that is Santa Claus. You know, when we're little ones, our parents tell us the story about Santa Claus. It's very exciting, it's fun. It makes Christmas a really fun time for little kids. But at some point in time during our development, we come to the realization that, in fact, Santa Claus doesn't exist. It's just made up. So that would work as one example, or maybe you have another example that's similar to that, of something that you believed when maybe you were smaller to be true, and then when you grew up, you realized, maybe not so much. Have you ever become so focused on elements of the past that you miss out on something that's happening in the present? And you can flip that over. You could say, have you ever focused so much on something that might happen in the future that you miss out on something that's happening right in front of you? So there's 3 different ways of going about answering the questions, or you can come up with another way of doing it yourself as well. But investigate your own life. Look at metaphysics, ideas that are created in the human brain, imagination, the past, and the future. Any of those 3 things. Have you ever believed in any aspect of any of those 3 things, only to find out that they were upsetting or interfering with your present-day life? Okay, yesterday's essay is back by now. Make sure you handle it. Get today's essays knocked out, and we'll see you tomorrow at Step 6.